It's hot, but it's well worth it. Oh, hi. Welcome to Gattsy on Goosebumps, the show in which I review every single Goosebumps book from R.L. Stine's original series. And joining me as always is my co-host with the most ghost, Andrew Rogerson. How are you, Andrew?
I'm on laxatives.
He's on laxatives. So, I guess you could say this book scared you shitless.
Yeah, man.
Keen-eyed viewers may remember you for your role in the 2009 Flinders Christian Community College production of High School Musical, in which you played Troy Bolton. But you've actually expanded out from acting into writing in recent years. Is that correct?
Yeah. Look, you would have to have a very keen eye to know that I was in that production. I just released my first ebook. It's poetry, so bit niche, but if you want to check it out, it's called A Year Rewritten. And
I believe it's one poem every day of the year. Is that correct?
I wrote it a couple of years ago, and it's one short poem for every day, kind of like as a journaling technique. So it's available on Amazon, on iBooks. We'll have a link down in the description somewhere, some fancy graphics. So yeah, appreciate it if you could check it out.
Let me just say, I've read some of them.
Have you? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, they hit hard sometimes.
Can you quote one to me?
Wasn't there one about how you were feeling? But we're not here to talk about poetry, are we, Andrew?
No, we're here to talk about this thing.
Goosebumps number
30.
We cracked the big 3-0.
Wow.
Goosebumps number 30. It came from Beneath the Sink.
Yep.
Rogerson, do you want to take us through the front cover here? Maybe just lean forward, show the camera what we got here.
Now, funny thing about Goosebumps and front covers, I've got a bit of a story here. So, I read a bunch of these when I was young.
So you were familiar with the Goosebumps series?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The thing was, though, these covers used to freak me out a fair bit. And so what I'd actually do is I'd rent a whole bunch from the library. But during the night, I would hide them in my cupboard because I was scared of the spooky
cover art from Tim Jacobus. Did you think that one would have scared you as a kid?
No, this one's actually okay. In fact, I think this reflects a lot of the 90s sensibility of Goosebumps, because if you look at that, like, what's the first thing you think of when you look at those?
I think a snake.
Anaconda.
Yes.
Anaconda, that relic of the 90s.
Starring J-Lo and
Ice Cube. The actual creature in mind that comes from Beneath the Sink is a little less spectacular. So.
It is, and even its eyes, which I described in the book, don't look anything like that.
No, they are more bloodshot rather than glowy.
Than venomous, if you will.
So yeah, nice little...
I will have to ask you to pay for that one. Do you want to read the tagline and the blurb there?
With pleasure. It's warm. It's breathing. And it doesn't do dishes. So, quite witty there. I honestly cannot tell if Eddie's describing the creature or describing the typical millennial. So at the back, their luck's about to go down the drain. Goodness me, will this guy ever stop? Kat and her brother Daniel are so lucky. They just moved to a new house with tons of rooms, 2 balconies, and a lawn the size of a football field. That is NFL, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is smaller than an AFL field, because you're thinking, gee, that is a big...
But still quite an impressive backyard.
Yeah, definitely. Can't complain. But all that good luck is about to run out, because there's something really evil living in their new house. Something that's moving, watching, waiting. Something that comes from beneath the kitchen sink.
Probably shouldn't have ended on that line.
I mentioned the 90s sensibility of the cover, and that's really reflected in quite a bit of the language used. I came across such classic 90s phrases as "get a life." You know, that really took me back. And also...
they really do stick out when they sprinkle those 90s expressions in there.
Yeah. What else? Cool your jets as
well. Haven't heard that.
How long has it been since someone said cool your jets?
Since J-Lo was a box office draw, I imagine.
Yes, in Anaconda.
But yeah, do you want to take us through the plot of the book?
Sure. So we kind of open up on... It kind of takes this campfire story kind of structure. Like, let me tell you the sad and frightening story of the thing that came from beneath the sink. So in typical R.L. Stine fashion, we have these two siblings. You know,
Brother
you've got
and sister.
Katrina, who seems to hate her name for some reason. I think it's a pretty reasonable name.
Katrina's fine.
Yeah, Katrina is fine. I think it's a lovely name for a young lady. And Dan as well, who's the typical,
Obnoxious
small,
younger brother.
I know, always, and has his, presumably Hispanic best friend Carlo over. I've got to fact check whether his name's actually Carlo.
It's Carl. I think it's Carlos. Yeah, he's probably Hispanic.
Another 90s names. Oh yeah, and also Katrina, her favourite colours are pink and purple. She wears like a pink purple jumper. So
now you don't need to remember that because despite being mentioned quite explicitly, it plays no bearing in the.
It doesn't. I mean, it's just a 90s.
Nice little tidbit.
Anyway, we open up on the existential dread of moving into a massive mansion.
A trope of the Goosebumps series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it even says they don't even move that far. They just move a couple of streets down. So, yeah. Anyway, so Katrina's kind of sussing it out, seeing what's there, getting really excited for her new bedroom. It's on the second floor. And I think my favourite part of the early book is when, at the end of chapter 1, Daniel jumps out in a rat costume. And she, of course, thinks he's a monster until she realises that he's in a rat costume. Now, it was recently Halloween.
Yeah.
Did you see any rat costumes?
I did not see one. I have to think for things you'd want to go as at Halloween, rat would be way down the list.
Yeah, and even when you're packing, it's probably going to be towards the bottom of your bag. I feel like Daniel would have struggled to break it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after a few shenanigans, they actually do come across a very strange object.
Because their dog's barking at it.
That's
right. Dog's quite freaked out about it.
Now, if you're going to face monsters and all kinds of creepy crawlies, have a canine with you because... they can recognise ghosts.
They can detect them. Yes, they can.
So they find a strange sponge, and we're not really sure whether it means a traditional kitchen sponge or a sea sponge. It kind of interchanges between those things. But this sponge seems to have a bit of a personality. It enjoys humming. It enjoys
pulsing.
Yeah. There's almost this little John Carpenter Jr. thing going on here with a bit of body horror.
Yeah, certainly with. Well, we'll get to it a bit later. But it's also got like 2 eyes on it as well.
Yeah,
2 black
these little eyes. And it seems to really it seems to run on Schadenfreude. It seems to really like it when people are befallen with bad luck. It swells up and makes a louder humming sound when Katrina stubs her toe, when her father falls off a ladder. I mean, everyone's having accidents in this book. And you never know whether the sponge is causing them or whether it just likes them. But the genius is that R.L. Stine has created a creature that he has inserted into his world that is going to thrive off the kind of world it is, which is a world of
That's a good point. Yeah, this is actually a perfect monster for a Goosebumps book.
Absolutely. You wouldn't think it, but and it looks nothing like the picture.
What do you think about the design? Like, in terms of a sponge, it's not really that scary.
I never felt it was very menacing, even at its hummiest and most pulsating.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe that's part of the appeal that it's not something that looks traditionally scary, but it's scary. I thought it was quite effective later on in the book as more bad luck befalls our protagonist. It starts to laugh as well. So it's not sort of you get a sense that it looks like a sponge. It is quite alive. It's aware of what's happening and it's actually enjoying it. I found that quite a good touch. But essentially, throughout the story, this sponge. It seems to just make things worse, doesn't it?
It does. And every time you kind of... the interest in the story starts to wane a little bit. R.L. Stine's just a master of the end of chapter cliffhangers.
He crams them in there,
There's one point where Katrina literally freaks out over a popping sound. I mean, what...
So as you said, it starts sort of quite not that bad. She stubs her toe and and her dad falls off a ladder.
Yeah.
It starts to get more serious.
Well, I think the worst thing that happened to her is that Katrina's birthday's coming up. I think her 12th birthday or something. Yep. She's super excited and she wakes up and it's raining and they were going to go to a theme park.
Yeah, a water park with rides. And
Alanis Morissette.
Isn't it... Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she's had it. She buries this creature in her backyard and wakes up tomorrow morning. And what's happened?
Well, all the plants have withered. Is that right?
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah. And the grass has just turned brown. It's actually she buried it in the yard to get rid of it. It's destroyed the yard. And sometime before this,
the exposition machine shows up.
Yes.
The exposition machine, in this case, comes in the form of a book, which Daniel finds at their school, called the Encyclopedia of the Weird. They find this book, and they reckon they know what this sponge is. They reckon it's called a gruel. Is that
gruel? Grool. Gruel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says that it feeds off the bad luck of people, and in a neat little plot device, if you give it away to someone, you'll die within 24 hours.
Oh.
So that's why she can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And actually that leads to, at one point, the gruel goes missing. And she has to find it. And there's sort of a real sense of, I've got to find this thing.
Yeah.
Or I will literally die.
Yeah. I'll die in some Final Destination kind of accident.
Yeah, hilarious accident.
They do get the gruel. But their problems aren't done.
She runs over it with a bike. Nothing happens. I think she smashes it with a textbook. I think into a million pieces.
Here's John Carpenter, right? She even she cuts it up.
Yes,
she cuts it up. She separates it, and it comes back together. This thing is indestructible.
She puts it down the trash compactor. And puts it down the sink, sending it from whence it came. That
kind of. Well, it would have passed very close
to its spot under the sink.
Beneath the sink.
But it just sort of it commands the water to push it back up to the surface. So it's like,
I mean, I was thinking maybe cut it up and then put each individual sliver into a separate container and then bury them.
Or send them off to different countries or something.
Yeah, but that's okay, Katrina. You did your best.
She can't kill this thing.
Yeah.
And she can't get rid of it because it's going to kill her.
She can't get rid of it by force. And that's what the Encyclopedia of the Weird says.
What do you mean, Andrew?
It cannot be killed by force.
Well, how else can you kill it then?
Well, you see, I think R.L. Stine was the kind of guy whose parents used to say, Russell, or whatever his first name was.
I believe it's Robert.
Roberts, little Bobby.
Russell Stine.
Bobby, you've got to kill him with kindness. You've got to kill him with kindness. And Katrina gets an amazing brainwave that if she cannot kill this gruel by force, that she's going to do it by love and singing it a lullaby.
So she's complimenting the gruel, she's cooing, and she's saying how much she loves it and how cute it is. And then I think she kisses it at one point as well.
Yeah.
And the gruel's hating this. It's like...
It shrivels up. It loses its swelling.
So, there you go. It can't be killed by violent means. But it can be killed with kindness. Curiously, when they're reading the Encyclopedia of the Weird, they see another entry, don't they? Yeah. Of something called a... What were you going to say?
Well, I'm wondering if this thing's illustrated as well, this encyclopedia. Perhaps.
Yeah, it might... yes, it is. It is. They say yes. And it's something called something with L. It's like a Linux. It's like a Lorax or a Linux or something.
A Linux?
It's a Linux.
Any Linux users out there?
And he's just describing it as like looks like a potato but with sharp teeth. Yeah. Anyway, to forget about that because that won't come in handy.
I knew potatoes had eyes, but I didn't know they had teeth.
Had teeth as well.
And in true Stinger fashion, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Goosebumps Cinematic Universe.
You get a post-credit scene here.
They find another thing in the exact same spot.
The dog is barking at.
The dog is barking at in the exact same spot.
Oh, don't worry, it's just a potato though.
With teeth.
So, I guess these two ancient mythological artifacts / organisms are living not in the same house, but under the same sink.
Mate, it's the super best friends of obscure...
mythological doom bringers.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think...
It's meant to sap your energy.
Yeah. It saps your energy, yeah. So, she's going to die soon. But that's the end of the book. So, we don't have to worry about that.
No sequel. Where's the sequel?
What could you call it? It's still beneath the sink. It came from over the shower head.
Yeah. It's better than saying it, it came from beneath the bottom of the barrel of ideas.
What did you think of the ending? The killing with kindness thing.
Look, it's not where I thought things were heading, so in that way it was surprising. I did find it a little bit lame, to be honest. I think if you're going to make a creature feature, you need
a finale.
The showdown. You need the showdown. You need a little bit more risk.
Yeah, look, I quite like the actual creature of the ghoul. I think this thing that's quite unassuming, but it's got such, he does give it a lot of personality in the way it breathes and it pulses and it laughs, and you get this idea this thing is really hateful. So I really like the idea of this creature. But killing with kindness is kind of a cop out, and I don't like it. I don't like it when there's a plot resolution where it's like, oh, they could have just done that all along. I mean, if she did something like she found the other potato creature and like fed the gruel to that, I quite like the story. Okay. I like, I feel I sympathise with Kat and how everything's going wrong and a desperation to get rid of this thing.
She tells her parents, but of course, every time they look at the sponge,
it's just a sponge. She also tells her, I think, her auntie and her science teacher.
Oh, she describes her auntie as, even though she's a grown-up, she's completely cool.
Whoa!
Whoa!
How's that possible?
Grown-ups can be appealing in a way.
What did you think?
Look, it's fine. It's fun. It's a nice throwback to a simpler time. These kids, they go out and ride their bikes. They're not on their little O-pads and O-pods or whatever they're called.
Kids are playing, baseball rather than the latest Call of Duty.
I think that new one's out tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to get it as well.
It's probably not in the pantheon, but if you're learning to read, or if you
have severe intellectual disability, has this rekindled your interest in Goosebumps in any sense?
Absolutely not.
Shame. But Andrew Rogerson, thank you so much for sitting down with us to discuss this book and your new book, which will be available in the link, which will be displayed in the description.
Thank you for having me.
That's quite all right. But that's all for this week. Please join me next time, in which I discuss Goosebumps number 31, which is what, Andrew?
Knights of the Living Dummy 2.
2!
I want to say. Yeah.
I think you're right. Night of the Living Dummy 2. Thank you. He never is. Thank you so much for watching. And Andrew Rogerson, would you like to take us out with my trademark catchphrase?
Go home and have a sponge bath. And let it throb in your hand.
I wish I'd stop saying it, but I can't. Thank you very much.